I'm Sean Coultis. I'm the varsity defense coordinator at Bolingbrook High School in Illinois. For those of you who don't know, it's a school of about 4,000 kids. It's the largest classification, 8A in Illinois, and we've had a lot of success. Had some, great players. That's the most important thing. But we have a great head coach, John Ivelo, and Bob Cora is a longtime defensive coordinator. Has been there, and we have a bunch of great assistants that have bought in and run and implemented this system. So it's been really successful for us, and I'd like to share it with you. Just some things about Bolingbrook High School. I've been there for 9 seasons. In those 9 seasons, we've been 66-15 in the regular season. My opinion, we play in one of the toughest conferences in the state. We've had multiple teams from our conference win the state championship. I believe four different teams have won the championship in the last 20 or so years. So we play in a great conference. We won the 2011 Class 8A state championship. Every team we played in the playoffs, we held under 20 points, and we actually set the 8A title record for the fewest total yards allowed. And then not this year, but the previous year, we actually only allowed 88 points in the entire season, including the playoffs. So our defense has been pretty successful. But again, it's been a head coach that trusts us, and a bunch of assistants on the same page, and just a heck of a lot of good players. Just some philosophy stuff about our defense. The first thing that I really like is we always tell our players, if you do 3 things, you will play. And it's just to do your job, and that's kind of general. Do your job, obviously on the field, do your assignment, but do your job in the classroom, do your job in the weight room, do your job in the film room. It's just a general thing, to be trustworthy. The second thing is to play fast. And notice we didn't say be fast, because we've had some kids that aren't necessarily the fastest kid, but they play fast because they know what they're doing, and they're aggressive, and they pursue. The last one is to hit. And we found that if we have kids that buy into that, you'll have a great defense. And I'm sure that's probably something that probably would make sense on offense too. Just doing what you're supposed to do, being trustworthy, play fast, and hit. So that's something we kind of tell the kids and sell them on. And if they do those things, they will definitely see the field in some capacity. We believe in zone defense. I think zone defense, you're going to give up less big plays. You're going to stop the big play. Everybody's eyes are on the ball, which also means you're going to have more turnovers, which are clearly the most important statistic in football. And you want to stop the run as well. And I certainly think if everybody's looking at the football, it's easier to defend the run. So, for the most part, play zone defense. And it's funny, I think some people think blitzing is more aggressive than playing base defense, but I disagree, because if you have 11 guys playing assignment football, they're all going to be aggressive going where they're supposed to be, versus maybe I blitz a linebacker off the edge and they run the other way. Now I've just wasted a guy. So I'm just a big believer in, playing zone defense for the most part on, first or second down, and getting them in those passing situations and just being sound. Something else we live by is speed kills. Speed, first of all, it covers up mistakes. If you have more speed on the field, and especially with the advent of all these spread offenses, you want to have speed. But something we do at Bolingbrook is, we've had a lot of years we don't have a D end, so we'll take our best backup linebacker, put him at D end. If we don't have a linebacker, we'll take our best backup safety, put him at linebacker. And by doing that, I think first of all you get your best 11 players on the field, and figure out who those best athletes are and get them on the field. But also by doing that philosophy, if you can't find a DN, putting a linebacker there, you just increase your speed on the field. And certainly if you can't find if your D lineman isn't working at D line, you probably got to send them over to the offensive line, which also can work as well, helping get the offensive line some extra guys. Something we always talk about, obviously, in any defense, is tackling and pursuit. I think you got to practice it every day. Even when we're practicing in, say, helmets only, we'll still practice tackling by telling every kid you got to tag with 2 hands below the waist. It's still a way where if they break down, and we tell them if you can tag the ball carrier with 2 hands below the waist, you could have tackled them, and that way you're in that, you got the Z's and the knees, and you tag them with 2 hands below the waist, and we make our kids believe that. If you reach out and tag them with 1 hand below the waist, it would have been an arm tackle. or if you're standing straight up when you tackle, that'd be no good. So, we practice tackling every day, even when we're in shells, by doing the tag with 2 hands below the waist. And same thing with pursuit, as I'm sure most of you do, 2-whistle drill, making sure that everybody's running the ball. An idea, I'm not sure where I got it. I'm sure I stole it from somebody, but it was the idea of, there's going to be no conditioning after practice and you start out with the number 0, and every time a kid loafs, you add a sprint after practice. So they start out with 0, but say some kid isn't sprinting the ball. All right, now we got 1 sprint after practice. But anytime they get a turnover in practice, if they get an interception or they strip the ball or whatever, you subtract the sprint after practice. So it's a running total throughout practice, and by doing that, you're indirectly encouraging pursuit and turnovers. And for the most part, they're probably not going to condition after practice, especially once they get the idea of all that. And something else we talk about with tackling that I think I got from Coach Joe Roman, who's a great coach. He used to coach at a local junior college around here. It was the idea of funnel tackling. I really don't like the idea of breaking down and tackling for the most part unless you're maybe in an open field tackling situation. Joe Roman talked about funnel tackling. So basically, if a team completes a hitch in the flat, that cornerback should be going full speed outside in, and the outside linebacker should be going full speed inside out. And by doing that, you minimize yardage gain, you get big hits, and we tell kids, you guys can miss a tackle as long as you miss it to your help. So I think it makes them more aggressive tacklers. We minimize yardage and get bigger hits. So funnel tackling is something that's really important. If the ball is pitched on a toss, you would have the force man in your defense, which in our defense is usually with safety. He's setting the edge to the defense, and everybody else is coming inside out. So you got a guy outside in and somebody inside out. So for the most part, funnel tackling is an important concept to understand in tackling, because most tackles are from an angle. So you need to know whether you're inside out or outside in and how you fit into the picture of the defense. Something that a lot of coaches say, but few of them do, is really abiding by that KISS principle. If you don't have a simple defense and the kids don't know how to line up and what their job is, they won't play fast. They're not going to hit hard. They won't do their job. They're not going to tackle well. They won't pursue, and they will not stop the big play. I think every time you put in one defense, you got to understand it's really like putting in a million, because that one defense has to be sound against any formation, any motion, any shift. If they run option, reverse, anything, you have to be sound. So I think it's important to have a good base defense that the kids, have a lot of repetitions in and have confidence in, and then, you'll have a defense that plays fast and does all the aforementioned things. I think a lot of times coaches yell at players and, get upset with them because they're confused, but it's really the coach's fault. So I think it's important. Coaches say that, but very rarely do that. Next thing you know, they have a huge playbook with all kinds of alignments and blitzes, and their kids are confused. Like I just alluded to, having a sound defense, do you have a guy, do they know what gaps they have? If a team runs an option, can you stop it? If a team runs a bootleg, do they know what to do? A sprint out, a trick play, are you going to be sound against that? And then again, just taking away what the other team does best, like I'm sure all you do, practicing against their best runs and passes. And the last thing is pressuring the quarterback, getting him in those third and longs and pressuring. And sometimes pressure can be just showing pressure, and then, the offensive line and quarterback freak out and get rid of the ball quicker than, they otherwise would have. So, pressuring that quarterback and getting some pressure is the key to stopping the pass. So those are some philosophical things that I think you have to remind yourself of and be cognizant of. Defensive line, we want to fire off and attack and then react. And you want to practice reacting to blocks. I think that's the number one thing to remember at defensive line is they need to know what to do versus all the various blocks that the offense can present. And that's the number one thing the defensive line should work on. When you strike the offensive lineman, we're an outside shade defense. So we line up in outside shades. We're a shade on the center, a 1 and a 3. and then, we're shaded on the tackle and a tight end if there is one. So we want to have our inside hand on the sternum and our outside hand on the outside shoulder with our hat in the crack, which, essentially is getting your helmet in the gap. I see a lot of teams sometimes where they're a 4-3 defense, but their D-line hits one hand on each shoulder pad, and then they're face-to-face with the offensive lineman. They get into a head-up situation where now they're going to get reached, and they really don't understand how they fit in the defense. So it's important to, teach them gap control. This is, we ask them, what is your gap? They're lined up in a 1 technique. They need to know they have the A gap, or they're a 3 technique and they have B gap, and emphasizing that, you don't want to get head up with that offensive lineman. You want to control your gap. So inside hand on the sternum, outside hand on the shoulder pad with your hat in the crack. This is something that's pretty unique, I think. At least I hear a lot of people always yelling from the stands, watch the ball, watch the ball. We teach our kids to key the guy. To me, if an offense is going on 1, the center is going to try to snap on 1, and the offensive lineman is going to try and fire out on 1. So I don't know how people got to think that the ball always moves faster than the offensive lineman. To me, they're both trying to snap the ball and fire out at the same time. So I think keying the man is important, because you're asking your defensive lineman to react to a block. I don't think it's realistic to ask the defensive lineman to watch the football and then on the snap of the ball get his eyes back on the lineman that he's supposed to react to. So I think it's important to key the guy. The only time it would, to me, make sense to key the ball is maybe if you're slanting, or if it's an obvious passing situation where you're not trying to engage the offensive line with your hands. Something we got from University of Wisconsin Whitewater is to follow your hands. I basically heard Kevin Bullis, I think he's their defensive line coach, he was talking about the key to playing defensive line is following your hands, and that's the only thing he teaches them. He doesn't want them thinking a lot, because they're 6 inches across from an offensive lineman that knows what play's coming, and they kind of don't know what's happening. So he really teaches kids to fire out and just follow their hands, and I'll explain a little bit more what that means. Something that's really important that I think is that kids need to understand is they start out in an outside shade relationship, and they want to follow their hands to stay in an outside shade. So you're started out shaded outside of that offensive lineman, and as the play starts, you want to stay in that relationship. So if the offensive lineman goes down inside, you need to hit him and then follow your hands, which will take you down inside to react to maybe wrong arming a trap or tackling the dive back on a veer. So you talk to kids about, all right, this is the way you're starting in an outside shade, and as the play goes, you need to still be in that relationship as he tries to get outside you and reach you, or goes down inside. You want to start in an outside shade, stay in an outside shade. Down veer block, again, fire out with your hands on the sternum and 1 on the shoulder, and as that guy goes down inside and you hit him, you feel him going down inside, so you need to follow your hands down inside and stay in that outside shade, which will take you where you need to go to, like it says, to tackle a dive versus option, or to wrong arm a trap. Again, a reach block, same thing. You fire out, hit your guy, you feel him trying to get outside of you, so you follow your hands, which will keep you in your gap. And at that point, we teach our kids to push and pull. They push with the outside hand, pull with the inside hand, and rip up the field to cut them off. Same thing, follow your hands. You just repeat it over and over to kids. Drive block, you fire out and that guy's coming out at you, you're going to try to squeeze him back into the area he came from, while, again, you have a gap responsibility to do your job. Pass block, you fire out to go to hit your guy, and this time he's kind of standing up and maybe even backing up. So again, following your hands takes you into your pass rush, and at that point you're going to go to try to get the quarterback. When you're teaching these reactions, veer block, reach block, drive block, pass block, introduce them one at a time, and then teach them the proper reaction. And again, walk through it. I think it's important to be a good teacher as a coach. So teach them the name of the block, show them what it is. Again, teach it on the board, show it to them on film, then go out to practice and walk through it. And you just maybe introduce 1 block a day in the summer. and review it. As they get better at it, then you can pick up the speed and maybe jog or go full speed through it and start to mix up the blocks where they don't know which one's coming. But at first, you want them to be successful. So go through one block at a time and walk through it and let them be successful, and then eventually mix it up. And the last thing is, again, as a coach, you really have to help your kids as much as possible. And I think it would be a mistake for a coach to yell at a kid on 3rd and long and say, how come you didn't know it was 3rd and long? You need to, know it's a passing situation. So we actually have a call that alerts them. The coaches are all, letting the kids know that it's an obvious passing situation. So that way, at that point, now they don't have to do the follow your hands thing. Now, if it's 3rd and 17, we want them to widen out and think of a pass rush move and be ready to get the quarterback. So it's important, in my opinion, to let them know, all right, now we're not in that base mode anymore. Now it's an obvious passing situation. So now you don't have to worry about engaging your guy. You can go get the quarterback. Something from University of Texas that I learned maybe 5 or 10 years ago. This is, I think, when they won the national championship with Vince Young. They only had 2 moves they taught their guys, and it was all about momentum, and it was really interesting. They had a speed rush with a counter, so they would start out attacking full speed up the field outside of the lineman, and if it was working, they'd keep going and go to the quarterback. But if they felt that the offensive lineman overset to the outside or they were getting pushed past the quarterback, they would counter back to the inside with, either a spin move or a club and a rip. And that all had to do with momentum. And I thought it was really interesting. Like, try to go and get by him with a speed rush, but if you feel that offensive lineman's momentum oversetting to the outside, then use his momentum against him and throw him to the outside and come back inside. And same thing with a bull rush. Try to, every once in a while, bull rush that offensive lineman, and if it's working, keep going. You're bull rushing him and you're taking him back, keep going. But again, if the bull rush isn't working, it's because he's leaning into you. So use his momentum against him, throw him forward onto his face, and then just pull down on his jersey and then go around him, get to the quarterback. And that has to do with momentum. So I think that's really interesting in teaching kids that if they understand that principle momentum, they will always get to the quarterback, because whatever the offensive lineman does is wrong. If he oversets, you come back to the inside. If he doesn't overset, then you'll be around him. If he sits soft, you bull rush and run him over. If he leans into you to stop your bull rush, then you use his momentum against him and get to the quarterback. So I think that's really interesting, and teaching the kids to how and why to use those counter moves. I think it's something that is really important with the defensive line. And the interesting thing about those 2 moves and why they complement each other is because the speed rush makes the offensive lineman want to move laterally to stop you, and the bull rush makes him have to set his feet and stay still to stop you. So it puts that lineman in a catch-22. Should I slide laterally? Well, if I do slide out there to try to get him on the speed rush, he might run me over. So now what do? It puts him in a bind, and as long as they understand the counter moves, you'll be good to go. Some stuff about linebackers in our defense. Getting kids to read their keys is big. Generally, against most offenses, we're going to key through the guard into the backfield, generally key in the near back. I don't think you can just key linemen or just key backs. I think it's important that you see both. If you just keyed the running back, you may be fooled on some kind of counter, something like that. Or if you just keyed the offensive line, they could fool you. If the offensive line fires out on a pass and sets strong, you might think it's a run. But clearly the quarterback might have rose up and already thrown the ball on a 3-step. So I think it's important to see through the guards into the backfield and see the whole picture. Something that is important is the concept of open and closed windows. An open window, to me, is what a running back's going to see. The running back wants to run to an opening, so I think it's important linebackers understand that theory, that playing linebacker sometimes is kind of like playing running back. You're looking for a hole, and you want to kind of shoot through there. If it's a closed window, you certainly don't want to run up into a bunch of bodies. So having them understand that concept of, some people call it cloudy and clear, but open and closed windows is important. Recognizing a pull, the offensive lineman's or the offense is gaining an extra blocker to the other side, so we need to gain an extra defender to that side, and seeing pulls. And most teams do not false pull, or at least make a living off that, and seeing pass as well. So being able to see those things with the offensive line: open, close window, pull, and pass. We make a trap call. If the right outside linebacker sees his guard pull, he can yell trap, which helps the other linebackers that may not have seen the pull because it wasn't on their side of the ball. So the side where a lineman is pulling from, that linebacker makes a trap call, which helps the other linebackers react to it. Something we do against pass, our outside linebackers read, this is a general rule, they read 2 to 1 to 3 to crosser. And if number 2 is vertical, we want to get that reroute and collision him. And the middle linebacker helps him on the 3 and the crosser call. So the outside linebacker on pass opens up, and he's really reading 2 to 1, but let's say 3 went out. He's not going to know because he's opening up to the outside to get to 2. So the middle linebacker will be his eyes for 3 or a crossing route. So the outside linebacker really concerns himself with opening up to 2 and seeing 2 and 1. And if 3 is running, an out route that the middle linebacker can't get to, the middle linebacker will be his eyes and yell out, 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 out. Or if somebody comes on a shallow crossing route, he'll yell crosser, crosser, crosser. So he sees 2 and 1 and hears the middle linebacker for 3 in the crosser. Middle linebacker, like I said, is going to open up to 3, and if 3 is going out, he'll yell out, 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 out to the outside linebacker, and he's reading 3 to 2 to 1 in that order. And again, the middle linebacker is trying to reroute 3 if he's vertical. And sometimes 3, it's important the middle linebacker knows where 3 is. Sometimes 3 is, it could be trips or tray, and he's on the line, or he could be in the backfield. So the middle linebacker needs to identify where 3 is and open whichever way he is. And if he's in the backfield, he'll open whichever way the running back goes. And again, like I said, if 3 goes out, he yells out, 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 and we'll then look for 2 and 1 coming in. And last thing is, if there's a crossing route, the middle linebacker yells crosser, crosser, crosser to his outside linebacker and then sinks, because most teams that have a crossing route have a receiver coming behind it. So our middle linebacker, we always tell him a crossing route for him, it's kind of like fishing. The offense is trying to get him to bite up on that crossing route, and set the hook, so that way they can throw behind him on the dig. So middle linebackers don't jump crossing routes because it's hard for a quarterback to throw a crossing route where the middle linebacker is anyway, because he'd have to throw a line drive through the offensive line, defensive line, and might get tipped for an interception. Just wanted to kind of go through some of those rules in the diagram so you can better understand it. As you can see, middle linebacker is going to open up. Here's number 1. There's 2. There's number 3. And then on the other side, here's number 1. And here's number 2. So we'll go through some of the rules. Middle linebacker is going to open up to number 3. And as you can see, 3 is going out. So he's going to yell out, 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 out. The will linebacker, again, opens up to 2. And he's going to try and reroute him because he's vertical. But as he opens up to 2 and 1 on that side, he hears that middle linebacker saying out, 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 which means I can't get 3. He's opening up way too far from me, so I want you to take 3 for me. So at that point, the will linebacker is going to run through the curl, and if they throw to 3, he can break up on 3. Again, we want to stay out of this no cover zone, but again, he's going to expand out because the middle linebacker yelled out, 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 out. The middle linebacker, again, is reading 3 to 2 to 1. So as he opens up to 3, he yells out, 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 and now his focus is on 2 and 1. So he's looking for who's coming in, and he sees that his next threat is number 1 on the in route. so he'll take that. Okay, and then we play quarters coverage. A lot of times the way we'll play it is the corner and safety are both keying number 2. They're both keying number 2. If 2 goes out within 5 yards, the corner will take him. And if 2 does not go out within 5 yards, the corner's just going to sink back. And the safety is keying 2. And if 2 is vertical, the safety is going to take him. So in this case, 2 is vertical, so the safety has 2. The corner doesn't see 2 go out within 5 yards, so he's just sinking off. So if 2 broke to the corner, we'd have a double team. If 2 broke to the post, we'd have a double, with 1 guy in and one guy outside. On this side over here, the side where the middle linebacker is not opening up to, okay, again, linebacker, open up to 2, get your reroute because 2 is vertical. As you're opening up to the outside to collision 2, you can see 1. So collision 2, if you see 1 running a hitch, you're running out there right now, full speed, inside out. There's that funnel tackling. Corners king 2 to see if he goes out within 5 yards. If he does, he'll take him. The corner doesn't see 2 go out within 5 yards, so he gets his eyes inside, looking to see the quarterback, see what 1's doing. When he sees 1 run a hitch, we have him yell smash. When he yells smash, he knows what's going on. He sees 2 vertical, 1's running the hitch. He knows he's getting high load. So what he wants to do is midpoint the hitch and the corner and find the quarterback to see who he's throwing to. If the quarterback throws to the corner route, he'll sink on that. And if the quarterback throws the hitch route to 1, again, full speed inside out on the hitch route. So now we have that funnel tackling where we have a guy full speed inside out and a guy full speed outside in. And again, the safeties rule is the key 2 as well. They're both key in 2, the corner and safety. 2's vertical, so the safety has 2. Something about DBs. Again, we want to keep everything in front of us. Sometimes we'll play 2 read like I just showed you where corner and safety are key in 2. And sometimes we'll just tell the corners and safeties just to sink. Both of them, sink and just play your quarter and don't get beat deep, which, again, goes back to that philosophy we were talking about earlier about not giving up a big play. We want to understand our run fit with the secondary. Our quarters coverage, the safety is the force man. So he generally has pitch on option. He's going to set the edge on a run and be responsible to make it cut back to the rest of the defense. And the corner is generally secondary force, which means if the ball was pitched to the outside, the safety would be coming up, on the pitch, but the corner's got to ensure that it's not a halfback pass or whatever, or a flea flicker. So it's important they understand the safety's more aggressive, and the corner's got to ensure that it's not a trick play before he comes running up. The force man, like I said, sets the edge to the defense. He's got to understand all his help is the inside. Again, you can miss a tackle, just make the ball cut back to where all your help is, and that minimizes big gains. Sometimes the balls run away from the force man. It's going to be run to one side or another generally. If the balls run away from you and you're the force man, if you're that safety, you need to come down and almost run where the outside linebacker was. And you're responsible for reverse and cut back if the balls run away. And that's a great philosophy in my opinion, because it lets your linebackers be aggressive. They know that safety away from the play is going to have reverse and cut back, so it lets your linebackers take off and be aggressive, knowing that safety is there for reverse and cut back. Something that's important to understand with force man is sometimes the offense knows who your force man is, and they're going to crack him and try to get to the outside. So if you're the corner and if you see a receiver coming in to crack that safety, first of all, you yell crack, and you probably recognize it might be taking place because that receiver might have reduced his split inside. Maybe he's staring inside at the safety on the snap. You yell crack, but you cannot come up until you see the crack occur, because the offense, if they see you cheating up, as soon as the receiver goes inside, they could fake a crack block and go deep. So again, that corner's got to be a little hesitant, but as soon as he sees the block take place, then he needs to come up as a new force man because they've essentially eliminated our force man, so we need a new one. So crack replace is important. If there's an outside run of the safety goes now and takes off. Again, full speed, funnel tackle, go outside in. If you don't make the tackle, make it cut back to the defense. And he's very aggressive in that technique. If it's an inside run to the safety or a run away, we don't want our safety to take off to the other side of the ball because he has reverse. And if it's an inside run his way, you don't want him to run full speed to the outside because then he can't make the play if it continues between the tackles. So if it's a run away or an inside run to the safety, he almost comes down to about 5 yards, and then if the play bounces, he can still make the play from there, or if it continues up the middle, he can make the play from there. So again, outside run is the only time that safety runs full speed to the outside. If it's an inside run to him or a run away, we say come down your pipe to the area where the outside linebacker's original alignment was, and then that way he can make a play if it bounces or continues to be inside or away from him. Something we got crushed on one year. We played a great team called Mount Carmel. They've won multiple state championships in our state. They actually have the record for most state titles. They just destroyed us one year running veer option. We vowed to figure out what went wrong and how the 4-3 could stop it. Just some things we kind of learned from getting our tails kicked that I think would help you if you guys ever face an option team, which some teams are very, very good at. Defensive tackles are on dive all night long. The defensive ends, again, follow your hands, and you will know who you have on option based on where the tackle or the tight end goes. So again, hit your guy, and if your guy goes down inside, follow your hands inside, which will take you to the dive portion of the option. But some option teams mix you up where sometimes that tackle might block out on you, and if he blocks out on you, now that you know that you have quarterback. Because again, your hands are taking you to the option person that you need to be on, whether it's dive or quarterback. When you have dive, this is important. If you're a defensive end, generally you're going to, most teams will veer block it, and you'll be coming down inside for dive. You need to run down the line of scrimmage and take a flat angle and sprint down the line and get your helmet in front of the dive back. Because if you don't do it, it's going to be an arm tackle. So that's something that we found is really important, that defensive end's got to follow his hands. It'll take him to his option responsibility. Generally, it's going to be dive. And as soon as you recognize that, you need to sprint down the line and get your helmet in front of that dive back to make a solid tackle on probably a really tough running fullback. And it's also important to hit that guy, and follow your hands, which will also keep him off of our middle linebacker to let him play free. Our middle linebacker, we want to keep him out of the trash, so we deepen him up to 5 or 6 yards. He mirrors the angle of the dive back or the fullback. So the wider he goes, the wider the middle linebacker goes, and he looks for an open window. Again, there's the open window philosophy. If he sees an open window, he takes it. If not, he's going to keep scraping. So we tell the middle linebacker he's a dive to inside half of the quarterback player. If we're playing it right, the way most teams play the veer option, there shouldn't be a window because that defensive end is going to close down and get the dive back. So that should allow our middle linebacker to scrape. And I think it's important to understand in option football, they're not blocking that defensive end. So we need to assume that guy can make the tackle. He's unblocked. Let's tackle that dive back. In my opinion, the most dangerous part of the option with our unblocked defender. And this gives us 2 quarterback players, which is important. I know we used to face our offense the year we won state, and we ran a lot of option, and our quarterback is unbelievable. I mean, the kid is at University of Illinois now, and he was maybe the best player in the state, to be honest with you. And one guy on that kid wasn't enough to tackle him. And a lot of times our offensive coaches were so smart, they'd block our guy that had quarterback. So, it's important to get 2 quarterback players, especially if the quarterback's great, or in case they block your, they load the option and block your quarterback player. Outside linebackers also have to read that window because the defensive end, if it's a, veer option, generally he's closing and that linebacker sees a closed window, so he'll scrape for quarterback. but they could block out on that defensive end, which puts the D end on quarterback, and then that linebacker would have to fill for dive. So it's important they understand that open and close window. We'll tell them who they have on option. Open window, they have dive, and a closed window, they'd scrape for quarterback. Something else that's really important, I think, is, again, going back to not giving up big plays. We had the outside linebacker away from the direction of the option. He's looking to help. Once he sees the direction of the option, he's coming across trying to help in case that defensive end didn't get the dive. So it's almost like an insurance policy where if the defensive end didn't get him, we had the outside linebacker away from the direction of the option as an insurance policy. And he didn't make a tackle for a loss, but he saved us. So they only got, 4 or 5 yards in a bad play. The pitch man, again, our force man, in quarters is our safety, so he knows he has pitch. And again, we had an insurance policy with our safety away from the direction of the option. He was checking dive, and again, he had to ensure it wasn't a reverse, but once, he was slowly coming over there, and he's not trying to make a play now, but, he was slowly coming across to check dive, the quarterback to pitch, where in case our defense messed up, we had 2 insurance policies, the outside linebacker and the safety away from the option, just saving us so we never got hurt with that big play, which I thought was really important to help us against this phenomenal Mount Carmel team that we played. I'll draw it up so you guys can see it. Again, we want to play a tight 5 technique to keep this tackle off of our middle linebacker. He's going to collision him, and when he follows his hands inside, flat down the line, get your helmet across the dive back, and you're unblocked, so we need you to make the tackle. The middle linebacker is keying the fullback and matching his angle, looking for a window. But all this in here, there's no window. So he's keying the angle, and he's scraping tight right here, and he's not coming up in there because there's no hole. So he should technically be inside half of the quarterback player. This will linebacker is reading his B gap. There's definitely not an opening, so he should be scraping and being outside half of the quarterback player. So again, there's our 2 guys on the quarterback, and assuming our rush defensive end can tackle the dive. But again, this linebacker, the Sam linebacker, sees option away. He's an insurance policy, at 4 or 5 yards to save us in case that dive guy breaks through here and our rush can't get him. And here's our other insurance policy. Slowly checking everything, making sure it's not a reverse. And as he sees what's going on, he can then check dive to quarterback to pitch and be an insurance policy. And again, safety has pitch. So there's our pitch guy, and the corner's secondary force. So he's got to ensure it's not some kind of trick play. So that's the way we played it. And sometimes teams did this. They'd run this scheme, and this guy would run to the post, and this guy that's coming out on that cracking kick scheme could run a wheel. So if they did that, again, you could see how our coverage would be. The corner would have him, and the safety that's coming over to replace the safety that went for pitch could have that receiver in the middle of the field. So again, just something that we found that was valuable to help us defending option. Defending midline option. Again, the 3 techniques going to follow his hands, and it'll take him to where he needs to be, which is the dive back. And again, he wants to get his head across. The middle linebacker, again, mirror the angle at fullback and find the open window. So here's a picture of midline. Again, middle linebacker's mirroring the fullback, but he sees this A gap is all clogged up, so he's finding that open window, which clearly, with this tackle blocking out on our D end and this guard trying to veer release and our tackle collisioning him inside, and again, the tackle's going to follow his hands, which will put him on the dive back, and the middle linebacker will scrape to the open window, which will put him on the quarterback on midline. So again, just the philosophy of following your hands and open and close windows help you defend option. And again, this will linebacker would see the direction of the option, so he'd have dive leakage. This safety can help Slowly, again, he's trying to save us at, 10 yards on dive, in quarterback and so on. And we even had, some teams block it differently, but we play a lot of teams that our team used to insert this wing back inside. And when they did that, they're gaining an extra blocker. So when they inserted that wing back, we would insert our Sam linebacker in there with him. Another thing people always ask me, how do you defend B-gap ISO? Just some thoughts on that. To me, the key to stopping the play is your will linebacker needs to just destroy the fullback and understand that's a play that an I formation team wants to run. He should assume they're going to run it and attack right now and be ready to blow up their fullback. Something that helps you on weak side run, if your nose guard is telling you, coach, I'm hitting the center like you want me to, and that guard is crushing me and he's making a big hole, you can certainly put him in a 2-eye. It doesn't change anything about the defense. You're still in the same gaps. It just helps on weak side run. And in quarters coverage, we want to spill the play, which essentially means to make it run east and west. And I'll show you how we get, it'll help show you how our middle linebacker can get over the top to avoid a combo block of the guard and center. And also our safety and middle linebacker will funnel tackle. I'll show you how that happens right now. Okay, so our middle linebacker and will linebacker see flow coming weak. Our will linebacker's got to be ready to attack this right now. And again, he's got to attack the inside half of the fullback. But again, we want to make contact. Our goal is to hit that guy back there on his side of the line and just absolutely blow him up. And you can see how teams will combo block that guard and center on our nose up to the Mike linebacker by spilling the play and making this tailback go outside of that block. That lets our Mike linebacker get over the top of that combo block better. And again, you can see how that middle linebacker is going to be inside out, and our safety, who's the force man, is going to be outside in. So we have one guy taking on the block, spilling it, making the play bounce east and west, and a middle linebacker and safety who are unblocked in a funnel tackling situation. So again, we feel good about it. Teams look at our defense and see 7 in the box and think they can run, but we really have safeties tackling guys at the line of scrimmage a lot and making plays if they understand their keys. Something else, I think it's important to have bootleg rules in your defense. We have rules where if there's a bootleg, our kids know exactly what to do. The outside linebacker to the bootleg has the flat. The middle linebacker is secondary contain. A lot of teams understand our defensive ends are responsible for contain, so they'll waggle, pull a guard, or they'll veer down, block him inside to get our DN to close and try to outflank us. So our middle linebacker has secondary contain. And the outside linebacker away from a boot, and we even, same rule on sprint out, he has wheel, he has throwback, he has something coming back away from the boot, because teams, if they see your whole team take off to the bootleg, they can do some kind of throwback. And the safety to the bootleg knows that there's an intermediate crossing route coming from the other side of the field, so that's what he's looking up, and he can be late to the flat in case that outside linebacker doesn't have the guy in the flat. But we want to take away the most dangerous threat. That safety is looking for the deeper throw, and then he can always break up to the flat if that outside linebacker isn't there. I'll show you what it looks like. Again, all the linebackers are going to be faked a little bit. So they're going to see run, and they're all going to maybe step in the direction of the run. But as soon as they realize it's a bootleg, the linebacker to the bootleg is going to sprint to the flat. Okay, and you can see how they're trying to get our guy, and he's going to follow his hands like he's supposed to, and this team waggle pulls the guard and pins him in. That's why we need that linebacker on secondary contain. So he's going to take his step, thinking it's run. Hopefully he sees that guard pull. Maybe Sam gave him a trap call, and as soon as he sees that, he's going on secondary contain. Now, it's important. Don't run where the quarterback is. Run where he's going to be, which is, out here. So our middle linebacker's got to take a smart angle on secondary contain. The linebacker away from boot has to realize, this running back just got a fake. And maybe he'll sit there and, jog for a couple steps. But he's got to realize that if this guy sneaks out the backfield on a wheel, somebody's got to have him, and that's him. So our linebacker away from boot has that, boot. This safety is going to read 2 coming across the field. and he's coming across, it's not straight up the field vertical, but it's still a vertical route. So he's going to be over the top of that. It's going to be hard for him to cover this, so that's backside safety to where the boot's coming. Again, he sees run away. He might step up thinking it's run, and he's sees a run away from him. So again, he's coming down his pipe, and when he realizes his boot, he's hunting up that intermediate crossing route from the other side. And again, our corner would have the deep route, and our other corner is over the top of this backside post. So again, we got a guy on the intermediate crossing route, a guy in the flat secondary contain, a layer player that's kind of over the top of the intermediate crossing route and underneath that post. Some things about defending trips. We visited Wisconsin Whitewater, who's again playing for a national championship in Division III, and their defensive coordinator, Brian Borland. We're lucky enough to have his nephew on our team. He's already got a scholarship offer to Ohio State as a junior. The kid's one of the smartest players I've ever coached and just a heck of a linebacker. His uncle's a D coordinator at Whitewater, and we're lucky enough to have learned a lot about their defense. And they actually have a separate call for trips. So they'll call in the defense, and they have a secondary call where if it's trips, they have multiple options of how to defend trips, and they'll mix it up depending on how the team's attacking them. Some ideas about trips, again, have more than one answer for trips. One option is to play your base quarters where, the corner and safety to the trips would key 2, like I suggested earlier, and the backside safety away from trips keys 3. And if he's vertical, he'd take him. Something else you can do, if you feel that a team is putting their best receiver away from trips and saying, all right, what do you want to do? Do you want to cover the trips and leave our best receiver one-on-one and we're going to pick on you all day? Something you could do is bracket coverage, which is get that corner up there and press that guy, get a reroute on their best receiver. You'd have that corner being short into the outside with a reroute, the outside linebacker being short to the inside. So that funnel concept, and again, a safety over the top. So it's almost triple coverage. Makes you a little bit weaker on the trip side, but again, stronger, just understanding how the team's trying to attack you. Another option you could do, teams sometimes want to play action and put your middle linebacker in a bind where, they show run, the middle linebacker bites up, and they really quickly hit number 3. An answer to this, and also bubble screen, could be to roll the safety on the trip side down over number 3 on the snap, which, he jumped number 3 on that play action pop pass. And also by rolling that safety down over number 3, you can bump your Mike linebacker back into the box more, and you can even take your outside linebacker that normally splits 2 and 3 and cheat him outside of 2, which would help stop the bubble. So if teams are bubbling you, take that outside linebacker and on the snap, get him outside of 2 to take away that angle block for the bubble, and let your Mike cheat inside for run, and that safety can jump down over number 3 on the pass. And another thing that you could do is roll the safety on the weak side of trips down, which if a team's running away from trips, that could be a good answer for you as well. So just understanding why teams are attacking you and how they're attacking you, and having an answer for that against trips, I think is important. Want to talk about defending the bubble screen. I talked about that angle that number 2 is going to try to get on your outside linebacker and taking away that angle. To us, a bubble screen is an outside run play, and we need to take away the intent of the play. The intent of the play is to get outside. They want to pin your outside linebacker in with number 2, so we want to take that away and, again, force the play back inside your help. You need a force man, and you need the rest of your defense running inside out with those angles. Normally, our outside linebacker in trips lines up splitting 2 and 3. Whenever he sees 3 bubble, he needs to get outside of 2's crack block to force the play back inside. And again, he's forcing the play back inside to the middle linebacker and defensive end, and everybody's pursuing inside out. So we're getting those angles again and taking away the intent of the play. Safety and corner, they need to be a little careful in trips because 1 and 2 might be looking like they're coming up the field to maybe block. Then they could fake a block and go deep. So again, it's important to understand, teams can run a trick play and who's responsible for being immediate help versus, who's got to ensure it's not a trick play. So I'll show you a little bit of this. This will linebacker's keying inside. He sees 3 going out.
he's going to try to get outside of this block to be able to force this play back inside and take away the intent of the play. But as of now, that safety and corner that are key in 2, if we're playing our normal quarters, 2 looks like he could be coming vertical. So that safety can't be so quick to go. This guy could fake a block and go deep. And same thing with 1. He could fake a block on the corner and go deep. So we're going to have our will linebacker be the aggressor. Our middle linebacker opens up to 3. He's going to yell out, 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 which would, by our rules, make that will linebacker expand to take the bubble. The middle linebacker's got to ensure that 2 is indeed blocking. As soon as he's going to expand out when he yells out, 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 as soon as he sees 2 blocking will, he can go and be inside-out pursuit. But they could run bubble slant. And if they ran bubble slant, he's reading 3 to 2 to 1. So when he sees that, he can help on that slant. And again, defensive end, you're going to be fooled. You're going to close with your hands, follow your hands, but then you see the ball quickly thrown, so you're pursuing inside out. And there's our angles, and we have a guy outside in. And 2 guys that are coming, they're going to ensure it's not some kind of trick play, a fake bubble or a double pass, and then they'll be coming as well once they're sure it's just a bubble screen. Something I learned from a great coach that came over. He actually coached me. He was my defensive coordinator in high school at Naperville Central High School, and we were lucky enough to have him this year. He taught us about reading the depth of the back and the spread, and we had calls that let us know what type of play to expect based on where the back aligned, and this rang true all year long, and it really helped our kids. We had a call if the back lined up deeper than the quarterback, whether it's pistol or even if he's offset a little bit, but if he's deeper than the quarterback, we called bear, which stood for behind the quarterback, and we thought it was more of a between the tackle downhill run. Eagle meant he was even with the quarterback. He was on the same, if the quarterback was 5 yards from the line, the running back was also 5 yards from the line. And he might be coming across the quarterback's face for some kind of inverted veer play or possibly a speed option. So we called Eagle, and that alerted us to, possible more outside run. Falcon meant the back was lined up closer to the line of scrimmage than the quarterback, which generally is a pass, and the only way it was a run was if the quarterback was getting the ball, because it was impossible for him to hand off to the running back because the running back was closer to the line than the quarterback. So the only way it was a run was if the quarterback was a runner, and it could be a lead play, like a quarterback ISO. So having those 3 calls, Bear, Eagle, and Falcon, were huge for us. And, some teams really had some big tendencies that noticing the depth of the back and the spread is, in my opinion, really important and helped us a lot. Here's some contact information. If anybody wants to email me, I can send them, documents, or be happy to answer any questions. At this time, I'd like to thank Alan and, open up, the presentation, any questions anybody might have.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. That was awesome. In just a little bit, we'll open up the floor for questions. Coaches, you can submit your questions by the question section of your webinar control panel. It's just like a chat or an IM, so just send those over to me. Or if you've dialed in using telephone, you can click on the button that looks like a small hand on the vertical toolbar sticking out from your webinar control panel to ask a live question. To give you coaches some time to think of your questions, I'm going to go through a couple quick messages here. Take back control of the screen quick. Okay, Huddle, prepare, execute, dominate. Start your free 30-day trial today to upload and break down unlimited game video, create tendency reports, telestrate, create highlights, and more. Huddle's newest features are available now under the Coaching Tools tab on your account for $199 a year. Build your complete playbook online and prepare weekly with practice scripts. These features are available free until your next invoice is due. Take your video anywhere with Huddle's free mobile app on iOS, Android, and Windows devices. In addition to your full library, check out the new Tag a Game feature to complete 10 breakdown columns in real time during the game. Huddle's mobile apps are available for coaches and players. You're one team meeting away from having Huddle for free. Check out Huddle's newest and easiest ways to raise money without leaving your computer at huddle.com/campaigns or under your Manage tab on your Huddle account. Campaigns build awareness for your team's cause with a custom page and give your fans a chance to contribute money instantly. Do you know an outstanding high school football coach who deserves recognition? Here's your chance to honor him by nominating him for the U.S. Marine Corps Semper Fi Coach Award. Currently in its fourth year, the Semper Fi Coach Award recognizes coaches committed to excellence in developing young leaders. Semper Fi coaches exemplify the Marine Corps value of honor, courage, and commitment, living lives of integrity, strength, and self-dedication to their team's mission. A Semper Fi Coach Award will be presented at each of the 2015 Glazier football clinics. Coaches receiving the awards will also receive free admission and free hotel accommodations at the clinic where the award is presented. Go to glazierclinics.com/Semper Fi Award to nominate a coach. Football is changing. Every parent wants to know what you're doing to meet today's safety demands. The Guardian Cap is just one piece of the puzzle, but one that parents are continually thanking coaches and ADs for implementing. Talk to a coach who has used the Guardian Cap to find out how adding the Guardian helped his program. Football is changing. It's time for your football equipment to change too. Over 20,000 athletes have reduced the impact of their heads. For your athletes to be the next and see what we're all about, visit us at guardiancaps.com for questions or references. Call or email anytime. Since 1968, football coaches have trained youth, high school, college, and professional champions by making Rogers athletic football training sleds and dummies an important part of their practices. Football practice drills and Rogers equipment help coaches teach the player fundamentals. By limiting the amount of live contact, you give your athletes the confidence to practice with game day aggressiveness. They also supply all your football field equipment from goalposts to chains to crew sets to give your stadium a professional look. If you're a youth coach, check out their line of youth football training equipment at rogersathletic.com. Rogers understands that champions are made long before the games begin. Winning a championship on the field starts in the weight room. From their heavy-duty pendulum power racks to their complete line of pendulum plate loaded machines, you can train the entire body, build explosive leg strength, a strong core, an iron grip, and a stronger neck to help prevent injury and lower concussive forces in your athletes. No wonder that the most serious athletes from professional football to America's elite military forces train with the pendulum. Quality, innovation, and value from the trusted leader, Rogers Athletic. For more information, visit rogersathletic.com. In today's game day experience, the need for wireless has expanded beyond the sidelines. Understanding the types of wireless technologies being deployed in your stadium is key to ensuring a successful sideline experience. Whether it's fan Wi-Fi, cell towers, or referee communications, CoachComm's headset products offer proven solutions that coexist with the crowded and ever-changing wireless environment on game day. Your coaches' headsets play a vital role in your team's on-the-field success. Therefore, it's important to make the right investment in your program's future. For more information on how CoachComm can be a part of your program, contact them at 1-800-749-2761 or visit them online at coachcomm.com. Coach's Choice is the place to go if you're looking for the best instructional books and DVDs. They have a full library of instructional material from many different categories. To access these videos, visit their website at coacheschoice.com. Okay, Coach Coultis, right now I'm going to give you back control of the screen so that you can use your screen to answer any questions in case you need a pen or anything like that. So just hit show my screen when you see that pop up there.
Gotcha.
First question is from Coach Roos. He asked if you can put up the D-line slides again. I think that was towards the beginning maybe, or towards the beginning half. I think maybe he just wanted to maybe write some stuff down or take a look at it.
Okay. Let me try to go back to full screen here. Okay. There's the first slide.
Okay. Perfect. So
I'll leave it up for a second.
Yeah.
And then I'll go to the next one.
Yep. Yeah, no problem. We can just wait for a second here and
okay, sure. Then here's the next one.
Okay. And coaches, remember too that this webinar will be posted to Glazier Clinic online. If you're a Glazier season pass holder, you can have access to the recording of this. So keep that in mind as well, and you can jot down some of these slides as well there. Coach, next question from Coach Theory. He asks, do you ever have issues versus midline where your outside linebacker follows the wingback inside and the QB carries outside, like C and D gap? And how do you combat teams doing both?
Sure. Let me go back and show you Defending midline option slide. Well, I think the first thing to remember is, okay, your safety, again, is going to be somebody that's in on the run, and he's the force man. So I think it's important that you understand that, is that, on this play, the safety is keying in there as well. So when he sees this guy insert himself, he understands that he's the force man. So if they're going to gain an extra blocker in there, because right now if our middle linebacker goes in there, they have a blocker for the middle linebacker because they've inserted their wing. So we need a guy to take on that wing and a guy free to make the tackle. They have a blocker and a ball carrier, so we need somebody to take on the blocker and somebody to make the tackle. So we need to have 2 for 1. If they have a blocker and a ball carrier, we need to get 2 guys in there. But that safety that sees it, again, is coming down his pipe to replace where that outside linebacker was. And if that quarterback decided that it was cloudy and he didn't see a hole and bounces it, again, that safety can be an extra ball carrier. And again, our corner is in zone defense being very conservative. But again, once he's 100% sure that it's run, we would also have a corner coming up late to the outside as well, plus our unblocked safety. So, I just think it's important that you understand the concept of, numbers. Football is a numbers game. And if they're getting an extra blocker, you need to get an extra blocker as well because they've gained a blocker. So you need to gain a defender. So we really haven't had a problem with it. And just making sure everybody understands how they fit into the defense and trusting everybody on the defense and again, do your job and, play fast and hit, our 3 things we always talk about. I hope that answered his question.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question here. What is the backside safety's angle versus B-gap ISO?
Sure. Let me see here if I can get to it. The backside safety. So again, here would be our rules. We would need, they're running this ISO. So our will linebacker is going full speed through the inside of the fullback. But again, we want to contact him if we can on his side of the line of scrimmage. Okay. Our middle linebacker is scraping over the top of this block, and he's going to be inside out on the tackle. Our safety to the run. Again, run to him inside. We're coming there. The only time that safety runs out here is if the ball's being tossed. Then our safety would go full speed outside of him. But in this situation, on an inside run or a runaway, he's coming here, and he's outside in on this tackle, and the middle linebacker's inside out. And again, he's the question before asked, what if the play bounced? Well, if that play bounced, that safety's in a position where he can make the play on that as well. But the backside safety, again, remember our rules. There could be run to you outside. So let's say on this safety here. Here's the 3 situations on run. Okay? Run to me outside. I go. Full speed outside in. Run to me inside. I come down my pipe. Run away, which could be an outside run away, or in this case, just a run off tackle away, come down your pipe. So he's replacing this Sam linebacker, and that lets all of our linebackers run. We have our middle linebacker running over the top of this block, and our Sam linebacker on run away, he's a cutback player in that A gap. So this safety away from the run has cutback, reverse, and that's the same in any defense. A 4-4, a 3-5. Everybody has that boot, cutback, reverse player, and that's that safety, which lets our linebackers be aggressive and run. He's got A gap. These 2 are fitting B gap, and this guy's our force guy. So I hope that answers this question. The safety on runaway is replacing that linebacker and has boot responsibility or cutback or reverse.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question here. How would you defend double tight, double wing, primarily super power?
Double tight, double wing. I think the thing that's we would do, the tighter that the receivers are, we would have our force man become the corner. So, let's say that they, removed him and they removed him. Well, now they don't have an outside receiver. So he said double tight, double wing, so I'm going to remove the people and put him where I think he's talking. So we have one, a fullback type guy. Again, he's not here anymore. We've gotten rid of him, gotten rid of the flanker and the split end. So now, in my opinion, what they've done is they've forced you to change your force man. We don't like having our corner be the force man because theoretically they could take those receivers and split them out to the sideline. But now that our corners are in a better position, they can come in here because they don't have to widen out with the receiver. So now we would switch and play more of a cover 2, and our corner would be our force man, and our safety is a cover 2 safety now. Now, with that being said, if I'm this safety that's cover 2, I'm keying my deep threats, which are this tight end and this wing right here. So if I see this, some kind of double team on that defensive end, he should be the force man, setting an edge, and this safety, whose 2 deep threats are the tight end and the wing, he can come up in here, come down his pipe. Even though the cover 2 safety, his 2 deep threats just blocked. So he can come down his pipe. This corner should be setting an edge to the defense, and now you've just gotten 11 guys on the run now. So we find that, we can stay in our 4-3. We'll just take that corner, and if they have, we call it a nub surface. If they don't have a wide receiver, they don't have a split end or a flanker or whatever. If there's a nub surface, which could just be the closest guy to the sideline is a tight end or a wing, basically. We'll take that corner and bring him in nice and tight. So basically, our force man's now the corner, and that safety is a cover 2 safety. But again, it's important to understand that safety that's cover 2 is keying his deep threats, which are that tight end and wing. And if they want to block, that safety's got to get involved now. So I hope that answers his question. I think something else we usually do versus double tight end formations is we usually put our nose in a 2-eye. So those are some ideas against double tight formations that we have. Is basically we'll make the corners the force man, bring them in, play cover 2. But even though it's cover 2, our safeties get involved now. If they see that the blockers on their side are just blocking, they don't have a deep threat, so they'll get involved on the run now. And yeah, the offense thinks, oh, we got more blockers than you, but you just brought in a bunch of defenders. So I think that's why the spread offenses have become more prevalent. You don't have those packed boxes with 11 guys just sitting on the run. Hope that helps a little bit.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question here from Coach Massey. He asks, is Mike always 5 to 6 in depth, and what is the depth of the Sam and Will?
You know what? We actually, as a general rule, have all of them 4 to 5 yards, and that's versus any formation. But we would, against double wing teams, cheat our guys up a little bit. So we would cheat our outside linebackers up a little bit in double wing and cheat our middle linebacker back a little bit in double wing just to get out of the trash. So as a general rule, our outside linebackers are at 4 to 5 yards, all 3 linebackers. But against double wing or flex bone teams, we take the outside linebackers and cheat them up a little bit, maybe to 3 yards, and we take our middle linebacker and bump him back almost to 6 yards. But against any other, I formation, spread, whatever, we're generally, 4.5 yards.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question here. How do you defend tight end side flat versus pro formation while in quarters?
Sure. Let me see if I can get here back to the in quarters. He said pro I formation. How do you defend the flat? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Pro I.
Yeah, he said, how do you? No, I think he just said pro formation.
Pro. Okay, well, I'm assuming pro is tight end flanker, split end with 2 backs in the backfield.
Right.
This is I'm assuming this is what he means by pro formation. The general way to do it, in my opinion, is we make a match call. The outside linebackers are responsible for 2 to the flat. So in this case, 2 is this tight end here is number 2, and then on this side 2 is in the backfield. It's generally going to be the fullback sneaking to the flat. We'd make our outside linebackers responsible for 2 to the flat. So if this tight end ran to the flat, we'd match it with our outside linebacker, and he'd run through the curl and break out to the flat when they throw it. And same thing over here. This will linebacker's got to recognize the path of the fullback. This is the path on ISO. If the fullback's sneaking to the flat, he's generally going to come a little bit wider and go to the flat instead of running through that B gap. So we'd have our will linebacker match that to the flat. Our safeties are keying 2, and they're responsible for 2 vertical. So this safety here would be keying the tight end, who's number 2. And if that tight end came up the field vertically, again, our safety's rule is if 2 is vertical, you have him. So if 2 is vertical, that safety has him. But if 2 is not vertical, like in a situation where 2 went out to the flat on like an arrow route, or if 2 came, on a shallow crossing route, he plays a robber technique, which means he can rob 1. So he's very aggressive. So in a situation where 2, again, goes out or in and he's not vertical, our safety now has permission to rob 1. So he'd be coming down looking for, a curl, looking for, to get underneath a post, to get underneath a dig. And the corner is a deep player. So the corner, we call it match coverage. And again, the outside linebacker has 2 to the flat, on each side. The safety would have 2 vertical, and if 2's not vertical, that safety's playing a robber technique where he can rob 1, and the corner is a deep player. So that's our match coverage. Linebacker has 2 to the flat. Safety, as soon as he sees 2 to the flat, he's robbing 1, and the corner's backing up deep. Now on this side, same thing. Cornerback is a deep player on 1, and it still can be similar coverage on this side. He's deep. Our safety on this side, his 2's in the backfield. So he's almost a robber player before the play even starts. And that's why you can see in this diagram, I have this safety lined up at 8x2 off the end guy in the line of scrimmage, where this safety, where he has a 2 threat vertical, he's cheated to 10 yards deep. So he's a little bit deeper because he has a 2 threat. This safety doesn't. So as soon as he reads pass, he can rob 1 now, knowing this linebacker has 2 to the flat, and again, this corner's deep. So it's kind of like a robber coverage where the linebacker takes 2 to the flat. I hope that helps.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. He also asked, what if on the tight end side in pro they play action pass to make the Sam play run and they run the tight end out?
Sure. I mean, that's one of those things that I guess they could hit you on. At times when that was hurting us, in the past, we could always, if it's hurting you, you could say, all right, you're man-to-man on the flanker, and the safety is man-to-man on the tight end on anything. And then you could just have the same type of rule where the Sam linebacker would be responsible for the fullback to the flat, and the will linebacker could be responsible for the fullback to the flat to his side. That's one option. If that play was killing you, play action to the flat, you could just have your Sam linebacker. Again, he'd be keying 2, and he'd take him, on a vertical route or to the flat. That's an option that you could do if it's killing you. But again, most teams, generally that play is not going to hurt us that too much. So it's not going to hurt us less. We're not really worried about it. But if that was hurting us, you need to know how to make adjustments within the defense. So, and another thing that's important, just so I can show you, is this defense, the way the defensive end's aligned, kind of prevents that tight end from going to the flat too. So I think that's another thing, is that robber coverage is good, because if this tight end tries to go out, we have a defensive end sitting right there that should prevent him, getting his hands on him from going to the flat. So by lining him up this way, it forces this guy to maybe avoid him a little bit, which buys that Sam linebacker more time to realize it's pass and then shoot out there.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question If you check cover 2 versus solo receiver in trips formation, what do you do to the 3 receiver side
Okay,
line?
that's a great question. Let me go ahead and get there. Let's see here. Versus trips. Let me bring up that picture with the bubble screen. All right, so say we're cover 2 on the backside. First thing, if we are, we can have that corner, on the snap, he can get there. He's lined up like they don't know what we are in, but on the snap, he can come up and get to that position. So that way we're disguised and they don't know. And again, he'll be over the top on this side, and we have a guy that's short and to the outside, collision in, and a guy short to the inside. So we're triple teaming their best receiver with a reroute from the corner, and they don't know that we're in cover 2. To this side, again, it's that quarter, half defense. He's deep quarter, and the safety's deep quarter. So, it's just a safe coverage on the trip side, just trying to make sure, we don't have the numbers. We don't want to get beat deep and just dropping out, and he'd still be, expanding out. But we want to, again, you understand why you're calling this. You're saying, hey, maybe this corner was playing soft on him, and this guy's catching a lot of, hitches. Or, this guy's getting free releases and we want to bang him, or we want to triple cover him or whatever. So this gives that corner a chance to be aggressive and come up and maybe jump that hitch or get a reroute on him. And on the backside, you're just playing, it's a very popular defensive play, especially against trips, is quarter, half. And it's just safe on the backside, so that way you're not getting beat deep. Hope that answers the question.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question. What is corner and safety depth in your quarters package?
Again, safeties, depending on if they have a threat or not. Like in this situation, this safety here has a number 2. If we're playing cover 2, that safety, maybe we want to cheat him back a little bit because he's a deep half player, so maybe he wants to be at 12. If he's a quarters player, generally 10. But in that situation where he doesn't have a deep threat to worry about, which was in that pro I formation, back earlier in the slide when we cheated him up, he actually didn't have anybody threaten him deep, so we were able to cheat him up to 8 yards. This safety did have a number 2 that was a possible deep threat, but in this situation, this safety doesn't. We tell him, if you don't have, a guy that you're worried about beating you deep, that you can cheat up to 8, and we don't want to cheat him up too much. We don't want our safety coming up here, because on a play like this, that say they run a play right through this A gap, he's almost cheated up too far where he can't help on that. We want that safety on an interior run to still, be able to come down his pipe, not get too close, and then be able to help on those inside running plays. So, but we would cheat him, anywhere from 8 to 12 yards, depending on, the coverage and if he had a deep threat that he was worried about.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question here. Bear is the call when you see back behind the QB when the offense is in trips. What play or plays do you anticipate from the offense with Bear? I missed when you were covering it. Sorry.
Okay, great. Bear to us is a downhill running play. It's something that's going to be between the tackles. So in this instance, it's Bear. You can't really see that running back drawn in there. I was trying to fit a whole play on a screen that maybe wasn't big enough. But again, that back, Bear would be if he's lined up deeper than the quarterback. Eagle would be if he's lined up side by side with the quarterback, and Falcon would be if he's cheated in front of the quarterback. So if he's back behind the quarterback, deeper than the quarterback, we're anticipating him to be coming downhill on some kind of play between the tackles. So in this instance, inside zone, where you can see the running back's clearly deeper than the quarterback, we're expecting inside zone. So again, a downhill running play. The Sam linebacker should be ready to fit right now into his A gap. The rush linebacker anticipates, he's closing down with his hands on him and closing down inside, closing that B gap. Our middle linebacker sees his B gap closed, so he's scraping tight, and he would have quarterback So just being familiar with the depth of the quarterback before the play lets you know that it's more than likely a downhill running play, versus if they lined up this running back even with the quarterback, where he's side by side with him, they might be having this guy running across the quarterback's face on more of a wide running play. So that would be eagle. He's even with the quarterback. So that would be maybe more of something like an inverted veer, where a lot of teams block down on the play side and wrap that guard around. So just recognizing the depth of the back. A lot of teams, when you watch on film, you can tell which plays are coming, and making those calls alerts them to the type of play that's coming. And we even had a team this year we played, we knew if it was Falcon and their quarterback was not a runner, when that running back lined up closer to the line than the quarterback, we knew it was a pass. We'd scream Falcon, and every single one of these D linemen immediately didn't worry about hitting their offensive line. They got in a pass rush mode. So, just something as little as that, like recognizing, man, that it's a pass just by the depth of the back. So, I mean, I would hate to think that if you could guarantee it was a pass, you're not going to let your D-line know and your linebackers. So it's just something that, I find with a lot of spread teams is, pay attention to the placement of that back, and it gives away the type of play. It's important to know that.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question. Coach, you have addressed some questions as double wing, but could you clarify how your principles would differ against the flex option, where cut blocks are the norm rather than pulls and traps indicative of the double wing?
Sure. We actually played, our offense, the early one state, was a flex bone option team. I think, a big key is not to get driven off the ball, and that's a key in any defense. But let me draw up some stuff here and show you. Again, I think it'd be important for this nose and the tackle to just, make sure they're really firing out low and getting their hands on their guys. I think you'd want to be playing certainly a real tight alignment to keep them off your linebackers, and again, making sure you're not getting driven off the ball. They're going to be firing out low, so we got to be firing out low. And again, if they want to cut on the backside, they're going to cut on the backside. But again, to me, that's not the worst thing in the world, because they're just creating a pile of bodies. So, and also teaching your guys how to play the cut block. I think that's important. If you know they're going to be cutting you, again, using your hands, if you fire out and go to put your hand on his sternum and his shoulder pad and his helmet drops down, you need to know how to play that cut block, which would be now the hand that was going to go on the sternum now becomes on the top of his helmet as it goes to hit you in the knees. So, you go to fire out and hit that guy with your hands, and he's going to cut you. Now you need to know how to push down and off of his helmet, get your legs back, and be able to get in on the play. And certainly, if your guys are getting driven off the ball, you're going to have a long night. So, I've seen a lot of teams against option, they'll almost get in a 4-point stance. And we did that against some teams this year that clearly were in a running formation. We just get our D linemen down too and say, you know what, let's just make a pile of bodies, and, we'll have at it and let our linebackers run free and make plays. So, if sometimes we're like, if you want to cut us, we'll cut you right back. And, you're not going to get under us and drive us off the ball. So, I mean, to me, the worst thing is do not get driven off the ball. If you're going to create a pile of bodies, that's not the worst thing in the world. But certainly against an option team, do not get driven off the ball, and teach your kids how to play a cut block.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach. Next question. Can you go over the Falcon call?
Sure. Again, Falcon just means, and I'm not sure if I said this, but Falcon, it starts with an F, so it stands for he's in front of the quarterback. So Falcon would be just that the running back is lined closer to the ball than the quarterback. So Falcon to us means he's lined up in front of the quarterback, which would be, the quarterback's here and maybe that running back, and he could be offset. Falcon, I didn't mean he's directly in front of the quarterback. He's still offset, but he's offset where, if you draw a line through the quarterback, the running back is closer to the ball than the quarterback. There's no way the quarterback can catch a snap and hand off to him because he's in front of the quarterback. So that tells us the only viable running play that they could have out of this could possibly be, they might block out on the rush, down on our nose, and the running back who's in front of the quarterback could lead through as a blocker for the quarterback who could, run the ball. But that, you'd know that going into the game, man, that quarterback's a running threat, and they run quarterback, so that would alert you to a possible, ISO running play. But if their quarterback's not a runner and they don't run quarterback ISO, it's 100% pass, because Falcon, again, means he's in front of the depth of the quarterback. Eagle means he's even with the quarterback, and Bear means he's behind the level of the quarterback. So just those three levels.